Okay, so this is essentially using Adobe Illustrator to take an image to extract to possibly use on your torch or etch into your torch. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a rectangular square, which is the size of the extrusion I'd like to cut out. So to do that, I've got a piece of timber here that is 30 millimeters by 70 millimeters. So I'm just going to make a rectangular square that is that size. So by clicking on my mouse without dragging, I can put in my width, which is 70, and my height, which is 30. Now that just means I need to have a image that I'm going to cut out to stick onto my torch that fits inside that box. The next step is to choose an image that you'd like to use. To do this, the simplest way to do that is to actually use the internet. So clicking on and opening Chrome, I'm just going to type in and find an image that I'd like to use. So maybe a surfing silhouette. And I'm going to choose an image that I'd like to use for that surfing silhouette. This one here looks good. Just copying that image, going back to Adobe Illustrator and pressing Control V or Command V on the Macs. Now you'll see that image didn't come in very clear, so that one is not an ideal image to use. So we'll just go back and we'll choose a different one. Maybe something simple. Copy image, Illustrator, Control V, and there's my image. Once it comes in from the internet, Illustrator doesn't know what colours they are, and because the laser cutter needs it to be either RGB, red, blue or black, we need to define those colours for the laser cutter to read. So to do that, we click up here on this image trace button, and then clicking expand, you'll notice it puts all these blue dots around the image, and I can then choose an outline for my image. Okay, so if I wanted to cut that image out so that I could use it as a raised item on my torch, I will go to Direct Selection tool over in the toolbar, then clicking on the outside of the image, pressing delete twice, you'll notice I'll remove the background from that image. Next, what I want to do is go back to Selection tool, which is the black arrow, and select the entire image. I want to give that a red outline with no fill, so that way the laser cutter will read it to remove. So here in the top toolbar we've got two drop down arrows. One here is the stroke and the other one is fill. We need to make the fill none, and you'll see it has removed the black fill on the screen, and we want to make the stroke, which is the line around the outside, red. And in doing that, I've now got a red outline of the image that I wish to cut out. For the laser cutter to read that now, it needs to be 0.01 stroke weight, because that is how thick a line the laser cutter will cut. So typing that in and pressing enter, you'll notice I get 0.01 stroke weight, a lot thinner line. You might notice that some of your lines are darker than the others. What that means is because it's an image that's come off the internet, there's two lines over the top of each other, and we really need to delete one of those lines so that the laser cutter doesn't cut it twice. So using the direct selection tool again, I'm going to click on and select the individual piece that's dark, and pressing backspace twice or delete twice, it will remove that top line. Okay, that's ready for the laser cutter to cut out. However, it's too big for my piece of timber to fit on. So what I'm going to do is shrink it down holding shift, which will shrink it to scale. Click and drag it and put it inside my square, making sure it'll fit. Still doesn't fit inside my piece of timber. I'll need to go a little bit smaller. And then that's now ready to cut out. I can delete the box around the outside, and that image is ready to cut out on the laser cutter. To get it to cut on the laser cutter, we need to simply send it to the laser cutter printer. To do that, we press File, Print. When this image comes up, we simply press Print, and what that'll do is send it to the laser cutter printer. The printer on the computer is the red box in the bottom right hand corner. We will simply open that red box and you'll see your image should be in the laser cutter printer, and this is the program that runs that. To save wastage of materials, I suggest you move your image into the top left hand corner of the screen, so that way it's only cutting out the piece of material that you want, not out of the middle of the material. What I'm going to do is, I've got a little hole cut out of mine already, is move it a little bit lower. I'll turn on the printer now and you'll hear that start up. It'll go through a bit of a settings function before it's ready to go, and once you hear it stop that, you know that it's ready to go. Back on the laser cutter program, we have these functions over here on the right hand side. This one here is used to move the image to a different placement on the screen. The magnifying glass is to zoom in. The focus view, if I click on that, will give me an orientation point on my screen. What I can do is click that orientation point over near my image, and it will move the laser and the laser cutter to where it's positioned on the board, my image. So I can move my image to make sure that it's not, to make sure it's centered to where I want it to be, or making sure it's on the material. So I just need to move that image now a little bit so that it's in a better position to be laser cut. Now we can see that's on the board and it's going to print out nicely. From there, all I need to simply do is close the lid on the laser cutter. Make sure the extraction fan is turned on. It's important that the extraction fan is turned on because the laser is essentially burning the timber, and if the extraction fan's not on, your timber will catch on fire. If the timber does catch on fire, it is very important that you lift the lid immediately. What that will do is turn the laser off. So, to print, from here, all we need to do is press play. And you'll notice the laser cutter will start cutting that out. It'll do so quite quickly.